and starting off the season. He's what I would call a first-second option, all right? First-second option meaning that Big Ben is going to be your first option as a starter at the proper price tag. Wonderful. There's the understanding, the familiarity with the offense, with the team, with the city. So you're comfortable with Big Ben. You may not feel as though Big Ben has enough in the tank, so that's why we bring in Dwayne Haskins at a great price tag. We caught him, and he's going to be hungry to be more than what he was in Washington. That's where Haskins is from. There are a lot of reasons why things could have gone wrong, especially adding COVID into the scenario with a young man that hasn't quite figured out what being a professional at the pro level is. So Big Ben buys them time to find out, can we bring Dwayne Haskins along far enough during the course of this season where Ben becomes our second option? And then we put Haskins in and see if we can make this run, because they do have a defense that's good enough to win the Super Bowl. They have an offense that if they get one more developed guy, if Claypool comes on and can actually take that _1 spot and be that guy, if they decide to bring Juju back or develop a couple other guys, I think that they're a running back away, a running game away, maybe one lineman away and one receiver away from being where they need to be on offense to be a contender. So I think you keep Ben in place as a first, second option. And I think that's a safe play for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think you're making some sense, LeVar. Look, at this rate, Ben might be willing to pay the Steelers to come back.
Yes.
And play. I mean, he's desperate to get back there. So I think it's going to be a favorable situation for them financially, as favorable as it can get with his contract. So I've said this all along. If I'm the Steelers, I am pounding the pavement, seeing if I have a better option than Ben Roethlisberger. Can I make a trade to bring in my next quarterback, my next franchise guy? I don't think that's likely. So if I don't have the better option, rather than just hand the team over to the young Dwayne Haskins or certainly Mason Rudolph for a year, I would bring back Ben on a favorable deal. Because here's the thing, the Steelers don't rebuild, they reload. All right, Mike Tomlin in his 14 years, guys, never a losing record. Never. Even Bill Belichick can't say that after what happened last season. Never a losing record in 14 years. Bill Cowher, 15 years before Mike Tomlin, 3 losing seasons. So the Steelers don't just fall to the bottom. All right? They reload. And Ben, to your point, LeVar, gives them a chance to be, I think, a playoff team. Now, I don't think they can contend for the Super Bowl next year. But I do think they could make the playoffs. And while that's not the ultimate goal, that's not bad. You were relevant. What happened to Ben is that people got caught up when they started 11-0. And people started thinking, oh, my God, this is a Super Bowl team. You looked at people's power rankings, and the Steelers were #1 at a point. I never believed they were never that. They weren't great as an 11-0 team. That was awesome that they got to 11-0. It shows heart. It shows determination, execution, and good coaching. But they never were an 11-0 team as far as quality. If I had told you before the season the Steelers will be 12-4 and make the playoffs, you would have been happy. You know what? That's not a bad year. But because it started 11-0 and then the way it ended, everybody's down on the Steelers and on Ben. When Ben, look, he wasn't great, but to your point, LeVar, they had no running game. They were dead last in the league in running.
They have to address the running game.
So get them a rushing attack. Don't throw as much. They threw too much. This was the second most that Ben's ever thrown in his career at 38 years old. So diversify the offense a little bit. Get more of a running game. Bring Ben back. And if Haskins improves and Ben struggles, you can put Haskins in as a starter at some point. But I'd rather Ben play the whole year and Haskins learn in that building for a year, and he matures, hopefully, and maybe he will be your quarterback going forward after next season.
Okay, so there's so much here. I almost need like a 20-second timeout. You can put Haskins in, Chris? Please stop. No, that's not happening. But here's the interesting story here. So Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers both chirped up this offseason. As soon as Brady wins the Super Bowl, remember, Brady said, give me Gronk, give me AB, let's get Fournette. They get to call the shots in Tampa, Tom Brady. So Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers both a little upset. What's going on with Ben Roethlisberger, who's won 2 Super Bowls? He's just twisting in the wind. The Steelers kind of let him dangle out there. We're like, hey, we're going to kick the tires, as you said, Chris, on Sam Darnold. You know, we're going to see, can we bring in Carr? Do we need to make a move? Ben Roethlisberger, guys, is the reason that team stunk down the stretch. LeVar, don't tell me they need another receiver. They had the best receiving group, I think, in the league. Claypool, Juju, Washington. I mean, they are loaded at receiver. Ben is the problem. Final 7 games, he threw 10 picks. Ben Roethlisberger was terrible down the stretch. Yes, Chris, they started 11-0. The defense was great. They were a Super Bowl contender. They weren't the elite team like the Chiefs, but they started great. Ben was the reason down the stretch they cratered. Now, I know he had the surgery the prior season on the elbow, and it looked it coming down the stretch, okay? This guy's got a lot of wear and tear. He's immobile in the pocket. They really quickened his release, LeVar, so because they know he can't move around. So he's just throwing passes. I know he's throwing 40, 50 passes a game. That's not ideal, but they were winning with that until he started making all these terrible mistakes. You look at that Cleveland game. I don't even think we're willing to roll the tape here because I'm not trying to throw Ben under the bus. He was abysmal in a home playoff game favored against the Browns. I mean, he messed his pants in that one, guys. It was ugly. I actually believe Ben Roethlisberger is like what Chris said, basically begging the Steelers, please, guys, bring me back. I can't go out like this. I'm a 2-time Super Bowl winner. LeVar, I don't have as much faith in Ben Roethlisberger as you do. Like, this offensive line, did they lose Pouncey? I think he just retired. And, you know, the offensive line's getting old. I think they have 4 or 5 starters over the age of 30. Listen, it's not morning where I, you know, bash Dak Prescott and Ben Roethlisberger, but for some reason, the producers picked 2 quarterbacks who I just don't believe a lot in right now. And LeVar, you're smiling. You want to come after me. Go for it. But Ben Roethlisberger was terrible down the stretch.
There were a lot of drops.
I just want to know what the alternative is.
They just showed.
I just want from Jason.
Go ahead.
I would see what Sam Darnold can do.
I just want to know what the alternative is. I think LeVar and I are saying the same thing. Who's the alternative?
Okay. So, you know, Sam Darnold, the Jets quarterback, and I'm not just trying to get the Jets draft picks, he had nothing. He had the worst offensive skill position players in the league. You put him in that Pittsburgh offense. You give him Claypool and that fleet of receivers. They got a good tight end and dropped him as prime, Eric Ebron.
Can they get Darnold? Well, can they get Darnold?
Why not?
But what the Steelers don't do is make knee-jerk reaction decisions. They don't do that. They're not going to go out there and get a Deshaun Watson in a blockbuster trade. They just don't. What, Jerome Bettis? Is that the last time they did something to that caliber? So they don't do that. It's a very, very traditionally ran organization, and they do it very sensibly, and they do it the right way. So getting a Dwayne Haskins, he played at Ohio State. You're right next door to Pennsylvania. They're very aware of what he's done during the course of his time in college. When you look at the things that he came up short as a pro, for one, you're talking about a team that's in the I guess the process of changing the culture. You're turning a cruise ship around, not a motorboat, all right? So there are a lot of reasons why Dwayne Haskins could have came up short in an environment where he came from, where he came up short. You put him in that stable environment where, you know, I'll tell you a quick story. I always ask, why is Pittsburgh such a great franchise that does well all the time? And the guy told me, he worked for the Steelers, he said, you know, this is sum it up. I parked at the back of the parking lot. The parking lot is not you know, assigned parking spaces. I parked at the back. I got there like maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes before everything was supposed to start. And I get out of my car, and one of the Roonies says, hey, good morning to you. And he's like, why are you parked here? Like I'm parked here. You should be parked up front. He said, no, I got here at the same time as you. I got to find a parking space where the parking spaces are. I want a better parking space. I got to get here earlier, right? This is the owner of the team. So when you have a mentality where we work together, not against each other, it creates a different type of feeling. It creates a different type of environment. This is the type of environment that a Dwayne Haskins needs. And